everybody.
Hey, Peggy.
I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining. Shall we give the people who are not on Swiss timing and on perfect Indian timing and on perfect American timing, let's give them some time to join. Happy to see you all. I'm recording this meeting today, and I will mention that again a bit later so you all know that it's recorded. I actually did not record yesterday's meeting, but I did make a video for you to review and actually reiterate everything we did yesterday. I frankly forgot to push the button. So today I'm doing much better in terms of recording, and I'm going to make sure to actually distribute these recordings to you after the masterclass has finalized tomorrow afternoon. So we still have people joining. This is great. So I hope you're all well. Anybody who wants to come off camera, please come off camera, because it's much nicer for me to talk to faces than to talk to round kind of pictures, even though there are some very nice pictures. You actually are all very good looking. I don't know why you don't switch your camera on, but that's all right. That's quite all right. So I'm obviously curious how the homework went, and if you had something interesting coming out of yesterday's, maybe you kind of dreamt about something, or you woke up with an idea. So if you're shy and you don't want to speak on camera, please be so kind and just use the comment box, so to kind of share anything you want to share. I would be happy to have some sharing going on. I'll mention that in about 3-4 minutes when we are kind of more or less more complete, so we can kind of look into the next to start the next subject here. So I will just ask you guys, did anybody do the homework? Okay, nobody? All right. Did you remember what the homework was about? I hope you do, because actually yesterday, let me reiterate, yesterday we spoke about a few very crucial things if you want to convert or transform opportunity into 5-figure magic. And that was, we talked about your intentions, we talked about your inner clarity and your resilience strategy. And hi, Elizabeth. So we were all happy to kind of absorb, hopefully, the content. I'm curious if anybody wants to have a share around the thoughts of that homework. Did you find some inner clarity, or did you find did you catch yourself converting an expectation to an intention? It would be really super to get your feedback. Actually, for the people who are coming out of the woodworks now, we are going to send a little present. We have something small to share with you if you're interested. You can also put it on in the comment box. Otherwise, I would like to quickly reframe what we actually said yesterday. So we were talking about cultivating internal clarity. That is super, super important, as you know, because you will need to make sure in order to convert any opportunity to something that really rings true for you and where you really feel your authentic self, will be something that actually correlates with your inner values. And your inner values, you will only know what they are if you cultivate that internal clarity. We had some good questions around that yesterday, and I hope it rang true to you after you could digest the content. I know that the 60 minutes, sorry, my clock, she's a bit late today. She's a bit French, not very Swiss. I know that this is actually quite challenging because there's so much content in 60 minutes to be absorbed that sometimes things might not stick right away. So let me repeat. So an expectation is something future-oriented, and it's tied to an outcome. So it's something which you typically don't control. This is why operating with clear intentions around things you can control, like your state, for example, or your actions, you actually are able to be in a much happier place and create or transform opportunities much faster and much more tangibly. So if you look into intention setting is something always around the things you know how to do, you like doing, and which basically flow through you rather than which you have to think about hard. And the key here is to really keep thinking about, do I expect something? Second time. Okay. Do I expect something, or is there something I can control here where I can add massive value? So I see that nobody actually made their homework. That's too bad. I really highly suggest that you do that, because in order to kind of get your value proposition, which we're going to talk about today, correct or straight, it would be very, very beneficial if you had your intentions straight, right? And if you had clarity, and obviously if you had some type of resilience strategy built around how are you going to react if things don't work out the way you anticipate, which is again an expectation. So again, if you go out there with with an intention, with integrity, you're going to make sure that things are actually going to be able to happen. So let's move into today's subject, which is a very interesting one. And that's something which is very close to heart, because that's something I use in my business. I use in my business life all the time. I still use it basically daily. And that's actually one of the things which is probably the hardest to do in any business case. So I told you I have clients who I build business cases with, business plans with, and what you can clearly see is that this value proposition part is something very, very tricky, because a lot of people think they have it down to a T, but actually it's a value proposition which is talking about themselves rather than being a customer-centric statement. As it says, it's a value proposition. You propose a value to a client. It's not something you use to kind of feel great about yourself, feel great about your product. No, it's something that actually will make your client feel great about themselves and about working with you. So I don't know if anybody has ever had a value proposition, knows what a value proposition is, but basically it's something which it's a sentence, it's a heartfelt sentence, and the core of whatever you do, which shows your counterpart or the other side or your client that you can solve either significant problems or that you're speaking to their aspirations. So especially when you're talking about large-scale deals, the value proposition needs to be very specific, and it needs to be tied to an outcome or a clear value, a tangible value a person can relate to. Now, it's actually a statement which shows the unique benefits and the value your product or your service is offering to your clients. This is key if you want to convert opportunity into five-figure magic. People only buy what they understand. That's the first thing. But also people buy if they feel you or if they feel your business. I'm going to get into this in a moment. So it also shows your clients why they should choose you instead of a competitor, right? So it typically, a value proposition fulfills a need, it improves the situation, or it solves a problem. And in a perfect world, it does all three of those, right? It solves a problem, it fulfills a need, it talks to people's aspirations, or it actually improves the situation or provides a better solution for a target audience. So actually, the value proposition is the answer to what question? Any ideas? Somebody in the chat? No idea? Okay. So actually, it answers one question. Why should any customer do business with you, right? So how are your features unique to that client? And how is it that you're offering the better solutions or that you're offering superior outcomes? So the key components typically include key components of the value proposition. And this is not, I want to stress that, this is not a theoretical kind of exercise, right? This needs to be a very practical exercise. And typically, successful companies have a value proposition in place which actually helps their teams to identify with the values and serves as a reminder what values you are actually offering to your clients. This is a very, very important part. So it's not only something you put on a piece of paper and say, oh, this is great, we got it. No, it actually acts as a compass. Again, we had that word yesterday, where you can say this serves everybody in the team to understand what we're here for, right? What problem or need do we fulfill? How do we offer it in a unique how do we offer a unique solution here? And what are the key benefits for our customer? Now, I have a hypothesis. I don't think it's a hypothesis any longer. It used to be years ago. I always said, you cannot focus on your product. You must focus on your client. A lot of companies, I'll get into that, are very in love with their own products, and they are perfect in presenting the features, but they forget who sits on the other side of the table and what kind of benefits this person needs to understand in order to buy into your service or product. So today we're going to cover a few important parts which actually will lead, and I'll give you an example, obviously, because you all might all be wondering, does actually my Ladybird, my company, have a value proposition? And I'm going to share that with you too. So it is never about being in love with your product. So if you don't take anything away from today, just take this one away. It's never being in love with your product or your service or your know-how. It's always being in love with your client or your customer, right? So that's important. Do not be in love with your product. Be in love with your client. What that actually implies is that you know who your client is. You know what their needs are. You know what potential problems are. You know the client. And to do that, there is a very big element which is not related to a system or a strategy. It's related to a pure emotional fact. And the emotional fact is you have to have emotional connection to build a strong value proposition, right? Now, this becomes difficult because I have not met any one of you out there. Still, I'm able to provide you with, I think, input which you can connect, which you can emotionally feel and connect. So you are able to actually see me. So you can connect with me on screen. You see how I operate. You see how I talk. So that's the first step for an emotional connection. So am I able to build trust with you? Yes or no? That's one of the key triggers of an emotional connection. So there's a great saying, actually, never start. I think it was Simon Sinek who said, always start with the why. So why do people do what they do? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I kind of shared part of my story with you. And I frankly feel most alive if I can support businesses and people at this stage of my life. I love the business aspect. I always love business. I love finance, believe it or not. Actually, I like that too. Even though it's very past related, but I also like the projections into the future. But most of all, I love to work with people. So for me, and working with people means there is an emotional connection in anything I do. Now, you cannot simply highlight the features. You have to look into the benefits, and benefits typically are linked to an emotion. So people are looking for emotions when they buy a brand. We all know those brands which actually very successfully have emotions linked to it. And one of them I mentioned yesterday is Apple, right? This is a typical brand which is far more than just a tech brand. It has actually, that is probably something, an advantage it has towards somebody who's using Android, right? Because Apple has an emotion, it manages to connect with the users emotionally, me being one of those victims, actually. So you have to connect with their aspirations and needs. The other thing I can tell you, it's really, really important to not only, there are some coaches and mentors who say, oh yeah, you have to figure out the problems they have and then you're solving that problem. Do not always talk about people's problems, because when you start talking about people's problems, they are going into this state of the problem, right? So a problem weighs heavily typically on people. So I really suggest that you first try and evaluate what the needs are, what the needs of the people are, and what their aspirations are, rather than starting with the theme of what is your problem. That's never a good entry. Now, my company's value proposition delivers actually tangible results, while I'm also fostering an emotional connection that aligns with my customers' values and aspirations. So it goes like this. I'm going to read this to you. You don't have to remember, but basically at My Ladybird Enterprise AG, our customers are at the heart of everything we do, right? Here I go, and that's true. I am reminding myself every day and my team that everything we do is actually around the clients we have. We help business unlock the magic of opportunities by guiding them to operate with intention, not expectation. So that is something that is really at the core of my business. I am operating through this item of intention rather than expectation. And I'm a big believer in magic. I don't know if some of you followed me, but basically, leave room for magic is always something I like to quote, because you can plan and you can do your business systems, you can put together the strategies, you can have an emotional connection. But at the end of the day, there's always this little tinge of something magical could happen, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where something unforeseen happens and we think it's a catastrophe. At the end of the day, we figure out that this was actually the best thing that could have happened to us, right? I'm sure some of you have felt that before. So this is why I always claim, leave room for magic. So let me continue here. Our approach empowers clients to build the courage, very important, and resilience needed to succeed in today's dynamic market, creating inner clarity that translates into lasting results. At My Ladybird, I am not interested in creating short-term results, tangible short-term results. I am interested in creating lasting results for my clients. Operating at a business frequency grounded in prosperity, magic, and joy. I have not covered that yesterday. I will get into that in a moment. We ensure that the opportunities we pursue and the clients we work with align with this energetic frequency. What does that mean? Every business has a frequency, right? So when I'm operating with My Ladybird Enterprise AG, it is a very different frequency than if I'm operating as a partner, where I'm a partner at an M&A company. The frequency of My Ladybird is around joy, prosperity, and magic. And I watch that any opportunity that comes my way, business opportunity, mentoring opportunity, product opportunity, whatever it is, I always see that, does this align with those three pillars? Does it bring my client joy, and does it bring me and my team joy? Does it serve prosperity, right? Does it serve the prosperity of my client? So can he grow? Can he transform? Can he gain something out of it? And can I gain something out of that collaboration? And at the end of the day, is there some magic, right? Is there something where I go, this is making me curious, or I have to learn about that. I don't know that yet, or that it's an industry. I have a project in an industry where I've never operated in, right? So what do I know about plastic modules? So suddenly I have an entrepreneur coming up and saying, oh, support me, right? So this is very, very cool. So I love doing that. And that's what I mean by business frequency. Anyone, and that sounds a bit funny, but anyone where I say, actually, I have a feeling that I cannot serve this client perfectly because, for example, the frequency of the company who wants to work with me is around selling the company tomorrow, right? So a fire sale, for example, or they have to do a transformation in terms where they have to quickly get rid of a lot of staff. Things like that would not be items where I'm good at. Whereas when a client comes and says, listen, Peggy, we need to restructure, and I want to do it in a very respectful and very creative way, I can totally understand that. So at the end of the day, the decision to take for me is always, does this frequency of this person mainly, of this entrepreneur, or also that business case actually aligns with my business frequency, which is prosperity, magic, and joy. And so that's the last sentence, with the customer first mindset, we guide organizations to drive growth, innovation, and tangible success. Together, and that's another big point, we transform possibilities into thriving realities. And that's actually the part which I love the most. Any work I do, I have the most fun and fierce joy seeing that the individual is prospering or the business is prospering. I find this amazing, how you can actually convert opportunities which create possibilities into those thriving realities. And this is how I have built my value proposition, which has served my company very well for a few years now. And I was happy to share that with you. Maybe it gives you a bit of an insight into a value proposition. I always like to kind of be a bit practical about this. Do you have questions around that? If you have questions, I know I talk super fast, put them into the chat, please. Okay, don't see anything yet. So just make sure any questions can be answered in this chat, and use the hour to get your questions answered. That's important. As I mentioned yesterday, should you be interested in a personal consulting call, right? I would be super, super happy to offer you the 30 minutes free call to see what that means for you and what your value proposition, how your value proposition can serve you, and how we can actually use it to convert your opportunities into five-figure magic. Okay, here is Krista Marks. How can we send our product from Asia to Europe or all over the world? That is an interesting one. So Krista, thanks for that answer. So in today's world, everything has a solution. That's I always say people fly to the moon. Now, I cannot answer this question in one sentence, and it's not really related. This question is not really related to a value proposition. Now, the first thing is, do you have a product, or do you have a product that actually serves the clients in Europe, right? And if yes, what's the value proposition for that product? That is, I'm putting this in the context of this exercise here. Then you worry about how to get it from A to B. You can get anything done if you should have built inner clarity and have the right resilience to push through those hurdles that might come up, right? There's a lot of exporters, importers, lots of companies to do that. Then it's about building the value chain as the finances, right? If you want to work with a distributor, how do you want to get the product across the big pond? How do you want to get from A to B? Who is actually your end client? Do you have to have a distributor and a retailer and the consumer? Do you sell directly to the consumer? There's lots of levels to this. So that's a whole business conversation. Before touching that, I really suggest you look into the value this product provides, right? Because especially in products, there's lots of competition, as we all know. But with my example yesterday, I don't know if you remember, I mentioned the mineral water. There's space for anything you can think of. You just have to make sure that you have those differentiators intact. Yesterday, I mentioned the Fiji water, right? And why would somebody buy a bottle for $8 whenever you can buy mineral water for $1? So they managed to get the differentiators clear. So just that's my input on that one. I hope that helps. Now, I would suggest, and I mentioned that again yesterday, sorry for my repetition here, but emotional connection is something really important when you buy into a service or into a product. The difference between a service and a product is with a service, the person doing the service has to deliver the emotional connection, typically, right? So very dangerous if you have a team of people working in a project. So you basically sell the project as a service, and then you send your team members there. that's always could be a potential breaking point, because it depends if the people who you send there now to do that project, after they have only met the first person, can actually connect with this team, right? So that's something to take care of in services. In terms of a product, you will transport your emotional connections through a product, typically not through the product features, but through the feelings it creates in a person. I mentioned the magnet for the fridge yesterday. So an American comes to Switzerland, buys a magnet for his fridge in New York City, and on the back of the magnet it says made in China, right? So why would he do that? Why would he do that? Because he wants to transport the emotion he had in a place like Lake Lucerne, or Lake Zurich, or Lake Geneva. He wants to transport that to his fridge in New York. So when he looks at this magnet, he doesn't think about it was made in China. He thinks about the emotional connection he created with this magnet while being at one of those wonderful lakes. So this is a typical example for an emotional connection with a product. Now, it's interesting because a lot of those brands who have managed to actually play on emotional connections, one of them being big in the watch industry, right? There is no reason to buy a steel watch for six figures. There is no reason, but a reason of emotional connection. So they created a value around the watch. So it could be a prestige, or it can be image. It can be anything, basically, around an item where you build a story or you create an emotional connection, which suddenly overrides with us humans. The emotional connection often overrides the facts. So you stop thinking that you can buy a cheap watch for $10 and you'd rather go for the expensive watch because it creates, again, an emotion within you. So this is the part where emotional connection becomes super important. So for all of you listening, anything you sell, make the emotional connection with a potential client as important as the features and the facts of your product, right? So don't focus only on whatever the features are. Please focus on that part, because that's actually the differentiator number one, as this is the make it or break it typically in a crowded world. If you humanize your offer, right, that means also you're offering something that enhances a customer's life. So that could be, making things easier, making things, you come over with, okay, this is easing your work, or this is actually making things easier for you in your office. This is creating more time. More time is a very, very big item. How you can enhance any offering. So anything where you can claim it's going to save you time is typically a big winner. Why? Because we all know that time is not coming back, right? Dollars and money you can earn again, but time is not coming back. So that's one very big element here. Now, let me think. Okay, yes. Now, the other thing is this emotional part, and I want to conclude it with that, actually, is you cannot, sorry for the word, so please censor it, but basically you cannot bullshit people around, right? So customers only react to an emotional connection when they feel understood, or when they feel that you're authentic. We're getting into that a bit later, but basically you have to be authentic with what you're claiming you can do. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. So remember, anything people promise, so you would, if I promise you something today, you will remember, and then I have better deliver on it or over deliver on it, but never overpromise and underdeliver. People remember, and you will have the lost client for life. And basically not only that client, potentially other clients this client is talking to. So make sure that you're understanding the people and that you're actually delivering what you're promising, right? Okay, now how do you do that, right? How do you do that? And I want to actually jump, because let me look at my notes. Yeah. So there's lots of companies, and I'll come back to what I wanted to say before, but it fits better in the flow. Now, a lot of companies try to hit the middle ground, meaning we want to serve everybody. I cannot tell you how many clients I have myself who say, oh yeah, there's so much potential out there, right? Remember what I said yesterday? Market access always trumps market potential. So first of all, look into where do you have access? What's your market access? How can you access the clientele you want to serve? Where is the market access for you? So that's the first thing. The other thing is you do not want to serve everybody with anything. That's simply not working. Why not? Because people have different needs, as simple as that. There are some great examples. I remember when Abercrombie and Fitch, had their high life. There was a great study actually done on Abercrombie, and you will not believe that. And everybody who knows the brand will kind of relate. I don't know if you have ever been to one of those shops. I think it was 10 years ago, maybe 15 now. You had those, beautiful men, beautiful girls, hardly dressed in dark stores with lots and lots of fragrance. So you could hardly see the clothes you were going to buy, but you saw these people, these beautiful people typically. You had loud music, and like for every person who was over 50 that time, they just went, oh my God, let me get out of here. But people were standing in line. And the interesting part of that is, and why I'm telling you the story is because Abercrombie, they had a very clear target group. They said, we are serving 1 year of age, and that was 16. So they decided to serve the target group of 16-year-old girls and boys. And they did the whole layout of the stores, the whole layout of their collection, everything around that. So everything was, and this is why it was loud and why it was smelly and why it was dark. And so actually, and the kids all loved it, right? So you could see they really attracted those kids. What happened? Because they were so focused and so targeted that everybody wanted it, right? You suddenly had 30-year-old mothers who said, oh my God, I might fit the 32 jeans they're selling. So that was quite an interesting thing. It's a very good example for a company who said, we are going to go away from the middle ground. We are not trying to serve everybody and anybody. We are going to focus our offering around one customer, and we're going to hit it perfectly. And they did for years and years. Problem they had, they forgot that actually life is moving on. And if you want to succeed in today's world long-term, you have to reinvent yourself all the time, right? So the strategy that worked 10, 15 years ago is definitely not the strategy that's going to work today. So stay away from the middle ground. It's very dangerous. So your messaging and your value proposition cannot cater to everyone out there. It is, especially if you're looking for a high ticket client, they want to know that they are specially catered to. So you have to cater to their needs. And you have to really, really, the best thing to do is to really strengthen yourself in one category, right? That's the best thing. And really sell and market the hell out of that category and out of that market, the target group. That is really, really important. This way you can also, it will be much easier for you to actually construct this value proposition, because then you're clear you want to serve. High value clients especially are looking for expertise and specialists. They are not trying to work with a massive generalist, right? So they want typically somebody who can basically get super focused on one of the items where they need support and who has credibility in that segment. So be aware of that. If you want to convert opportunities into 5 figures, make sure that you know what you're talking about, and make sure that you're catering to a group of people which is a very clearly defined target group. Do you have any questions around that? Because typically there's always questions around this part. Nobody in the chat either? Okay. So what that also implies, it's a bit of a provocative one. So if you want to stand out, you can't fit in. So get ready, right? This is where the resilience we spoke about yesterday comes into play again. You're going to have a lot of pushback. And you might have pushback from people you value, actually. You might have pushback from your family. You might have pushback from friends who basically say, oh, well, what are you doing? I mean, why would you not cater to me, for example, right? So it's not about them, it's about your business. And make sure that your business actually has a very clear message to a very clear target group. So don't try to conform to what everyone else is doing, as this leads to blending with the competition and making it super difficult for your brand, your service, yourself to stand out. And do not shy away if you get any pushback, right? Pushback is what makes you stronger. And what my experience is, once you get pushback, you know you're on the right track, right? So the more pushback I get, normally I think there's something there some people see. And this kind of taught me to really walk my own path. So that's something I really want to share with you guys. Walk your own path. Define the true value that's important to you with authenticity and walk that path, and make sure to articulate it. Don't be shy. And you know what? You do not need the whole world. If you define your target group, which is maybe 10% of a crowd of people, you think 10%, right? Cater to them in a way that you can create a base of loyal clients which trust you and come back to you, which trust you and recommend you. This is how this works. It's not about, the quick fix. This is not, again, about fulfilling expectations that everything has to go overnight. This is about building trust, having an emotional connection, be authentic, and really face the music by being super concrete what you can do for which target group. I hope this kind of reasons with you. One example there is the company you all know, we all wear them, I think we all wear them, is Nike, right? I don't know if you remember, but before Nike came up and said they said, just do it. And just do it at that time was something people didn't even hear about. What did they do? Now I know what you're thinking. I'm coming to this. People came and said, wow, this is a sports company. I mean, Adidas and Puma, they were all catering to one sports, etc. But Nike came and said, okay, we have a new slogan, and we are going to actually not talk only about the sports. We are talking about personal empowerment. And that's exactly what they did. And they started with emotional storytelling, right? It did this, just do it, communicated a very bold message about overcoming challenges. And that was the first one who did it. Now today, and that's the interesting part, right? Today they cater to everybody. Actually, today, Nike faces some other problems because obviously, and that's a bit of a brutal example, but they're trying to fix that somehow, not so easy. Basically, they have the problem that if you have a shooting in the US, which happens, a lot of those shooters wear Nike shoes, right? So there's a negative brand transfer happening there because they're suddenly catering to so many people, but it happened because they focused on a group of people they wanted to serve, high-value clients, right? Emphasizing product design, but then they basically said, we're going away from only a sports focus, we're going into personal empowerment. And look where they went, right? It's pretty amazing. And what ties into this is they do the emotional storytelling. And that's something really, really important. So if you want to create this relationship with your potential client, make sure that you can tell stories. Make sure that you can give them an anchor to whatever you teach, whatever you sell, to make that believable, right? So I hope these examples actually reasoned with you. That's an important one. And then I'm going to go back and let me look at my notes. Yes. Why I did that little excursion here, because I think this don't try to fit in if you want to stand out. It's a really important one. And why I actually mentioned it was, there we go. Yes. Here we go. Once you know your target group, you should kind of understand what their emotions are, right? So you have to align your you have to align your messaging, your values to the drivers that actually keep those target groups awake at night, right? So you speak to something which basically the target group can totally relate to. So you're not out there somewhere and you hope that something sticks, right? I always say, don't throw something in the air and hope it sticks. You have to craft it according to the drivers that your offering fulfills for this target group. So you have to talk to their desires. I think you have to, my personal opinion and my personal experience is it's much better for me to talk to my customers' desires and aspirations than always putting their nose into their potential problems, right? So please remember that. And that was an important part of this message today. So let me see. Okay, yes. Okay, who here, now, you know what, I hope you know how to raise your arm on Google. Now, who thinks you're pretty unique in the world? Come on, you can do that. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, it's only Rohit who thinks he's actually pretty unique, and he is. I can totally confirm that. So your business and whatever you do is as unique as you are, guys. Okay, remember that. So, and every business you're in, and that frankly doesn't matter if you're an employee or a business owner. It's a bit more significant for business owners. But fact is, you have a unique imprint. You can leave anyway and anywhere. So you're born unique, right? Uniquely, you have your unique frequency, you have your unique attitude, you have your unique talents. You all have at least one thing which is very, and I love this word about that, very magical about you. So you will see, I always tell my clients is you have something, you do it with such ease that you don't even know you're doing it, right? So remember that. Your business, the business you're in, you will always create a unique footprint, right? And that has to come to life and that has to come to the surface. I just had a conversation this morning with somebody with a client who is actually super experienced. And it's super important to learn that experience is unique. The experience is unique and the person is unique. So the person actually has long experiences and he can share so much. So the first exercise must be, how can you put your uniqueness to work for you, right? So this is another question you have to ask yourself and reflect on that. Especially my left brain trained people who are all going through university and who are maybe going to do a fantastic master's degree and they feel like heroes, and congrats on that. But at the end of the day, guys, it depends how your uniqueness is going to be expressed. So make sure you start very early in your journey to define that uniqueness, because that's the uniqueness which can earn you all the money in the world, which can make you not only successful, which will make you fulfilled. But don't think it's only your left brain and your MBA or your bachelor or I've been that, done that. It's not about achievement only. It's about fulfillment. And you can only be fulfilled if you can kind of integrate your uniqueness in anything you do, because you're going to do it daily over multiple hours a day, believe me. So you have to make sure to really, really put yourself out there with your uniqueness and then communicate that uniqueness. I still have clients who are unsure about their uniqueness. So I look at them and I'm going, wow, this is amazing, right? I have amazing people I am allowed to work with. And after a few exercises, they go, oh yeah, right. Oh, I haven't even seen that about myself, right? And it's not, I don't do anything. I facilitate the process so that they can see how unique they are. Why am I actually mentioning this here? Because this is something which has to go into your value proposition, of course, because especially high value clients want to know what they're going to buy into, right? And they're going to buy into something that's unique mostly. And they feel they're buying into something that is authentic. And here's authenticity. Here it comes. Uniqueness implies authenticity. Authenticity implies that you're going to polarize. They're not all going to love you. They're not all going to hate you. There's going to be a crowd who is going to absolutely love you the way you are. And there's going to be a crowd who's going to say, oh, this person is not for me. But guess what? That's the case anyway. So show up as you are, show up with your uniqueness, be authentic. Please mind your personal integrity. There are some things which you have to have your personal integrity going into, sorry, I lost my thread. You have personal integrity, things you would do, and there are things you wouldn't do. So stay true to that. So make it very clear to everybody around you who you are and what's unique about you. And try and find this magic potion within you, right? Every one of us has a magic talent. Some people are super tech savvy, right? They're the techies. Some people are super people savvy, right? Some people are amazing negotiators. Some people are fantastic analysts. Met some really introverted people, beautiful souls. They just love their analysis. Perfect, right? So they're great at that. So whatever it is, there is no good or bad. But there's something unique you can do, and focus on what that is and build that into your values. This is super important for you to remember, as this is something which makes you stand out. An example here is, of course, as we know, what's his name? The Virgin Group, Richard Branson, right? So he is a guy who totally built his business around himself. And he is a guy who's very famous for not accepting the status quo, for massive risk-taking and total customer centricity. So he is probably, if I have to say, he is a fantastic example for customer centricity, as he always thinks about how do we actually make this better for people, right? How do we make this better? And that's something that is driving him. That's something that makes him stand out, even though people say, I have not met him. Actually, I know somebody who knows him pretty well, but people say he is not an easy person to deal with, right? Not a problem. He is very authentic. Also in interviews, he is rather shy. So he's not one of those, he is just what he is. And actually his uniqueness is what makes part of his business so unique. Now, I would like to basically cover one more thing a bit more, because it's really close to my heart, this whole part of customer centricity. So if you're customer centric, you do not just sell services or products, right? You are selling yourself as the person who desires to serve the client with anything, so the defined client, the target group, right, with your product or services, but to an extent which is a very, which actually creates loyalty and trust for the client, and which is going to create a bond which is very, very indestructible. So do we have an example for a customer-centric company? Yes, we do. Amazon. Right? Look at Amazon. So look at how Amazon evolves. That's all they do. What they do is now it's a data company, because what they basically do is they look at data, they look at feedback, and they're making the customer journey more and more tailored to the needs of the client. We have Amazon Prime, we have multiple, I mean, there's lots of things going on. They're building huge logistics warehouses also for other people. They expanded into, as you all know, Whole Foods. They're expanding into many customer-related, consumer and customer-related areas. And also there, like Branson, they are trying to make the customer journey easier. All they do is look at the so they go the other way, right? So they look, what is the outcome we want to create? And they go back towards their business, say what they have to adapt. So in today's world, like the one order clicking or an Amazon Prime, these are things which are actually not coming, in the old days, in the 80s, you did a company and you were thinking about a product and you were offering the product and you hoped somebody would buy it. This works differently now. Amazon is looking at what does the client want, what does the client need, and they build it into their business offering. So that goes exactly the other way around. And anybody who listens, who's going to be new into business or who's thinking about creating those 5-figure magic opportunities, remember that it's not primarily about the product you're offering. It's about what you're ready to do for the client in offering that product. And then watch out for multi-layered businesses, right? So there's a typical example. I think I mentioned it yesterday. I've spent quite some time in the pet industry. Typical example, you have actually 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you have 3. If everything goes well, you have 3. You could have more customers in that journey. So as a pet company, you would produce a pet product and you would hope it sells, right? If you're customer centric, you have to look into what does the dog need or what does the cat need. Then you have to think about how do we tell the consumer, that, like the owner of this cat or this dog, how do we tell this consumer that he needs to buy this product, right? So you already have 2 items in the target group, so to say. Then you have a retailer. If you want to show your product in a retail outlet, how do you tell the retailer that he has to sell your product versus another product? And what does he tell the customer, the owner of the dog, in order to buy it, right? So that's a 3-layered approach to sales. That's a 3-layered approach to customer centricity. So whatever you're selling, whatever service you're giving, always think about all the layers you're serving. You're not only serving one layer, typically, right? You're not serving one client. Like if I often work with companies. I don't only work with the CEO. I'm not the person who works with the CEO. My team is not working with the CEO only. We're working with the team. So our customer centricity has to be around all the people in this value chain. It has to serve everybody. I can't, because this is the worst, right? If you go in as a consultant or as a mentor and you're trying to educate the people of a CEO, you're typically going to run into a big wall. They have every one of those people I am in touch with. My principle is they have to profit from whatever I bring, right? They have to have a use. I have to fill a need for this person. I cannot go around and say, I know this much better, even though sometimes I do. But even if I do, I need to kind of provide them with an insight where they basically say, ha, okay, now I got it. I know why I should do it differently. Right? So watch that. It's a multi-layered approach, and customer centricity means it's not typically one client you're serving multiple clients. And that's the same for an employee and an employer, right? So the employer and the employee have an interesting relationship because it's a bit like customer centric, I always say. And it needs to be, why is it customer centric? Because one doesn't work without the other. The employer cannot work without a good employee, and the employee cannot work with an employer. So make sure to make this one of your principles. How do I serve the aspirations of my employer? Or how can I support my employer with his desires and aspirations? So this customer centricity doesn't only apply to situations where you have a customer paying for a service or a product. It does apply to a lot of layers in your life. So look into that. It's something that's crucial to understand. I promised you something else. I promised you authenticity, and I'm just looking at the time. Okay, we're good. One ties into the other. So authenticity, I mentioned it a bit quickly before. Basically, and I'm just kind of reiterating this, you have to walk the talk. I think that's the most important about being authentic. And remember, the first step we did yesterday, you have to have internal clarity to be and stay authentic, right? And a lot of people lose their authenticity when it comes to difficult situations or things they didn't expect. So make sure that you're staying true to this inner clarity and to your values, also when you get into a situation you didn't expect. This is where your resilience kicks in. This is how you can figure out how resilient you really are. If you start losing yourself in the process, you know there's something going on which is not serving you. And that is also showing you that your inner clarity is maybe not as clear as it needs to be, and your resilience might need some more training. So that's a very interesting connection to the authenticity part. Now, I raced a bit through that. Now, what do we do with this? I really urge you, I really truly urge you, and I'm totally fine if you want to share that. You do have our email address, I'm sure, because you got multiple emails from us. Why don't you share your homework assignment? And maybe it's not the right word. It's not, I don't want to bother you with homework. I want you to maximize the output you get from these 3 hours we're sharing. So in order to do that, and in order for me to support you, you can always book that call, that 30-minute free call, and I see how I can help you in discovering your opportunities in your world and how you can convert your opportunities into 5 figures. Happy to do that. But this will also help you to kind of streamline the things you actually can offer to the world. So it's a very simple exercise, which is tricky. Please create your value proposition. Think about your uniqueness. Think about what desires and aspirations you can fulfill for other people, or what problems you're able to solve, and see what can deliver the greatest value to your client's business or to your client as such, right? So please put that together. I read you my Ladybird's value proposition before. Happy to share some, we're happy to share some examples as well. You can obviously use Google for it too. Try and make it your own. And try and make it your own means you have to think about authentically, who are you really? What's unique about you? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you want to stand out? What are you ready to pay for the fact that you're potentially not going to fit in always? And go with that and start building that. I hope that will serve you, and you can share that with me in an email. I'm super happy to basically look into what you're providing to us, and I'm happy to give you feedback on that as well. Do you have any questions or comments for today? I'm happy to answer any questions or comments. You can put them in the chat. So either I was super clear, or there's really no questions around value propositions and your own value creation. This is an important part if you really want to make this happen and convert any opportunity into 5 figures, okay? So start working on that. And if you have questions, again, please either book a call with me or... It's good. Thank you very much. I'm told that you're learning new things. That's fruitful. That's good. I'm glad. I hope you could profit from today's workshop. I would be super happy to support you more. You can always address me through even a free online call, or also by sending me an email. Should anything else pop up, feel free to contact me. And should you have any other things you want to know, you can always reach out to me via email or via a call. Thank you so much. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time. This is going to be the last part. And I'm going to share 2 things that are going to make all the difference, and that are going to accelerate actually converting those opportunities into 5-figure magic. Thank you so much. So if there's anything else, please let me know in the chat now. I'm happy to answer any questions coming up still. No one? Okay. In this case, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. It was a pleasure to have you, and talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.